Hi there. This is going to be one of my weirder videos, but as you can see, if you look on the right-hand side here, this is my idea of what my dog Charlie looks like. He's a Springer Spaniel, and Mel, there's a link to her channel in the low bar, asked me and a couple of other people to say something about how our pets make a living. So I thought I would take this opportunity to introduce you to Charlie. Now, Charlie claims to be a freelance canine philosopher for hire, but so far he hasn't had a lot of customers, paying customers, that is. And also, I think he would object to being called my dog because in the world, according to Charlie, it's the dogs that own the humans and not the reverse. In fact, Charlie claims that there might be fewer problems in the world if there were not so many stray and unowned humans who have no canine willing to adopt them. Charlie has also pointed out to me multiple times that trying to argue about things on the internet is pointless. And he has found the recent arguments about atheism versus agnosticism to be one of those kinds of pointless arguments, maybe. According to Charlie, maybe forcing people into conceptual boxes might be something better left to religious fundamentalists. Why, he asked me, is it so important to label someone as holding or not holding authentic atheist beliefs exactly? But I didn't just accept his word for it. I asked him some questions. Charlie said, that the truth is atheism comes in a lot of varieties, which I found sort of confusing because, I'd never thought of it that way. And then he went on to point out something really strange. He said some atheists may even be religious in some sense. And boy, that really confused me. He went on to explain that Confucianism and Taoism can be considered atheistic, and this was really a surprise to me, even Hinduism. I mean, there are two schools of Hinduism that are considered atheistic. That's because they, according to Charlie at least, reject the existence of a creator God. And within Hinduism, according to Charlie, that makes them explicitly atheistic. It doesn't, Charlie said, make them naturalistic, but it does make them atheistic, as any belief system, philosophy, or religion from the perspective of religious theists in the West, they would be considered, these Hindus would be considered atheists. Really strange stuff. I mean, he's a dog. You might not want to take his word for it, but that's what he said. He said it got even trickier when you looked at Jains, because Jains, they don't worship any higher spiritual beings like gods, and they don't worship or pay homage to idols. Again, Charlie considers himself a really great philosopher, but I would check on all this because, who knows where he gets his ideas. But according to Charlie, Jains believe that the universe has always existed and will always exist, so there is no need for any sort of creator God. None of this means that there are necessarily no spiritual beings, according to Jains, but that you just wouldn't call them gods. So it gets really kind of sticky here. So technically, Jains then would be not a believer in God or gods. And certainly, again, from the dominant perspective of Western religion, they'd be considered atheists. Now, again, according to Charlie. Then I went on to ask him something else. This time I said, words do derive their present meanings from their etymological origins, or do they? And is the history of the word agnostic important here at all? Well, Charlie can be pretty, well, he's a philosopher. He can be pretty pompous. And so here's what he said in reply to that question. He said, sure, words have histories, but those histories may or may not be important in their contemporary meaning. So, first of all, did Huxley originate the word? I wasn't sure, so I just listened. Well, actually, according to Charlie, there are a couple of references to agnostic which predate Thomas Huxley's mention of it at the Metaphysical Society in London in the 1800s. According to Huxley, agnosticism is not a creed but a method, the essence of which lies in the vigorous application of a single principle. Positively, the principle may be expressed as in matters of intellect, but doesn't pretend conclusions are certain that are not demonstrated or even demonstrable. Okay, by this time, the whole philosophical debate was like giving me a headache, and I was beginning to see why Charlie didn't have many customers for his freelance philosophy. But I thought I would ask one fast last question. So I asked him what I thought was the central question here, um, and that was: are we able to prove or disprove the existence of God? And here is Charlie's response. He said, many philosophers hold that the existence of an omnipotent, omniscient, and good God is empirically refuted by the existence of evil and suffering. So would be happy to be called atheists rather than agnostics. Of course, the existence of a non-benevolent creator God would not be so refutable, and atheism would have to depend on arguments other than that of the mere existence of evil. More commonly, the theists will continue to insist benevolence in the concept of God and attempt to deal with the problem of evil with the help of auxiliary ideas or arguments, ad hoc hypotheses, and considerations. Scientists might do this, but they do it successfully, according to Charlie, because they shore up their empirical refutations with well-tested theories, whereas the religious and the theists do not. So I thought that probably concluded things fairly well, considering that I was actually having an argument with a dog who claimed to be a philosopher on the internet, and that maybe I really was wasting my time. So we just sort of, agreed to sort of agree and sort of not agree, which is what we usually do when we have a discussion, Charlie and I. But it all comes down to the same ending, as Charlie says.